Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining me in for this learning from each other, number two. So, jumping right in, this week's discussions really focused on how researchers construct meaning through interpretation, discourse, and narrative. And after looking at all these posts and thinking about these readings, um, the use of all of these texts really showed that interpretation is not neutral or final, but an ongoing and reflexive process truly shaped by the researcher's positionality or own, right? These multimodal readings helped frame qualitative research as something relational and deeply tied to our presence. So, reflection. My classmates really highlighted how interpretation is shaped by what we bring into the research encounter. Lila emphasized that here's a quote here: prior knowledge plays an important role in the process of making sense of something, which, as I look at it and see this as an interpretation is a stance rather than a step. This is something that you need to stand by rather than a checkbox that you need to on. Similarly, Emily's discussion showed how writing shapes these texts, writers, readers, and the knowledge produced, reminding us that writing is identity work. This is ultimately who we are and it represents us. And so we also want to best represent that work or that research. Jode clarifies how interpretive strategies shape what counts as meaning. And as I thought about that, and I really connected this really well to, I feel like, to Aubrey and Kelsey's work, is that interpretation and how we go about it and this data, again, as Lila imagines, like it's a stance. We have to stand by what we are collecting. Aubrey emphasizes that interpretation begins with this question design, which made me rethink about my own interview questions and how that might shape student responses, which is something that I did struggle with initially during the pilot study. Is how am I able to engage with students in a way that I'm getting responses that I need, but I'm not sugarcoating anything, but also not giving them grounds to think that I'm looking for a negative response. Um, Kelsey's reflection on insider research really challenges the idea of neutrality and reinforces the idea of reflexivity. So there's no way that I can be truly neutral, but I can try to be flexible and to provide valuable insights into what participants, students are, what I'm gathering from them. And I think together these insights introduce concepts like narrative multiplicity, how we're interpreting things, and rhetorical authorship overall, which expands an understanding of inquiry. Personal connection. These discussions directly influences how I think about my project on like outdoor program messaging. And to me, it's super important. And I've always been about making sure that you were uh, representing yourself well. Uh, from the readings, Bold's discussion of narrative trustworthiness really helped me consider how to ethically interpret student stories about exclusion in outdoor spaces. Because I want to, again, like I said, these are student voices, and I want to be able to represent that well. Um, I think moving on from that, there's an emphasis on how I represent my own commitments, and I think mainly on belonging and cultural access. That shapes a lot of my interpretations. That's something that means a lot to me. So naturally, it's represented there in my writing and in the overall proposal itself, which is on outdoor program messaging and how to get underrepresented communities engaged, and how are they engaging with this content. Additionally, from the readings, the framing of writing is as a product, as an artistic product, I think most importantly, really reminds me that my final analysis overall will be a crafted representation and not just a neutral report. I like the idea of an artistic product just because of the fact that it's something that you're putting a lot of work into. It's beautiful work, right? And it means a lot to us, like a painting. It's something that we're dedicating ourselves to. And I think this week really reinforced and reassured me about my prior knowledge about representation and belonging, and also pushes me to be more intentional about how I'm interviewing design and the narrative interpretation overall of these student responses and how I position myself within the research. Moving on, so areas of interest. I am most interested, and I will continue to be given this as part of my program, like the proposal and whatnot, is that how outdoor programs construct the quote unquote outdoorsy identities, or a vibe, if you will, through the discourse and imagery, and how these students interpret and read these cues. I want to look more closely at the ethics of it all. The multimodal analysis is really important part of this. As per my proposal and review, and especially how visual and linguistic cues work together to shape overall meaning. I'm drawn to studying my interview questions. I think from even from the proposals I've read from last week, just snooping about, uh, there's a lot of like interesting approaches, and I love gathering and adopting different ways to approach things. So I'm going to be examining that, um, reworking my framing, and looking at the social media post, campus signage. And I really want to strengthen my understanding of how students interpret their environmental cues. So I want to be able to say the best things in order to get the best responses. In conclusion, I'm really happy I've been able to engage with all of you and all of your varying perspectives. I think that truly helps me see that research is so interpretative, and it's relational as well, right? We get close to maybe our participants, and or we get to see their stories, which are deeply personal often. And I think these insights sharpen my understanding of reflexivity and narrative construction. So as I approach my study of outdoor program messaging, I'm super excited. I feel reassured, and I think this just clarifies my own research identity and strengthens my commitment to producing work that is student centered, which has always been super important to me, and I think has been at the forefront of everything part of this. So yeah, this is grounded in lived experience, and I want to be able to respect that. Thank you.